and thank you for coming to today's seminar. Our speaker for today is probably one of the first persons you meet in SSD, mainly because he takes care of our hardware and software needs. Denver previously worked with Dr. Pandy as Officer Database Administration from 2007 to 2012, and then the scope of his work was transferred to a division level under Dr. Mahanti and Ms. Pai Moya under the SSD Research and Database Management Team. So in 2012, his position was upgraded to Specialist Database Coordination. And Denver has been with IRRI for more than 6 years now. So right now he is involved in managing and updating of the division's website and also serves as the division's IT coordinator. He also works with the database management group in the administration of research database like the World Dry Statistics and Farm Household Surveys. Venra is also our division's research management quality assurance officer, so implementing procedures for data backup and identifying risk registers. Denner also coordinates the use of our conference room. And in 2011, he was nominated by the division to the Outstanding Administrative Support Award. And aside from his technical capabilities, Denver can also be artistic. I guess most of us are aware that he is a good singer. A proof of this is sample Denver. So a proof of this is when he won together with Dr. Telma Paris second place in IRRI Duets in 2009. But a word of caution, when you go to a karaoke with him, make sure you won't give him the microphone. Otherwise, you won't be able to sing. So without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Dehner de Leon.
Ako rin set up. I'm the one who is going to set up this one. Can you hear me at the back? Let's just wait for the... Okay.
Is that your car?
That's my dream car. Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share you first a quote that I found from Dennis Wakey, one of America's leading motivational speakers. It says here that life is inherently risky, and there's only one big risk you should avoid at all costs, and that is the risk of doing nothing. So doing nothing alone is already a risky situation. You're already in a risky situation. I see risk analysts as a fortune teller, where they try to guess or predict what might come up in the future. And I can also see risk analysts as more of an astronomer type, or a weather forecaster, where they can predict where the wind will come, how strong the wind is, when will an asteroid strike the Earth. And risk analysts can also, as a diehard killer like these guys, if you know National Geographic's doomsday preppers, these guys are always prepared for the worst possible things to happen. So we can also be like that. We can be like that for the most obvious reasons, like this one. We know that you're already in danger, but we still manage to put aside for the obvious reasons. So for safety, and also like this one. So if you see that man still standing there, which is already in a very dangerous situation, there might be aftershocks after, so it's still dangerous. So we still need to warn these people of what are the possible risks that we might encounter. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dehner de Leon, Specialist Database Coordination of the Social Sciences Division at IRRI. I'm also the Risk Management and Quality Assurance Officer at SSD. I'll be presenting risk management, quality assurance, and information management practices at the Social Sciences Division. Let's go to the next. So I'll be discussing first the objective, the responsibility, who are the people behind it, our current practices, our risk registers and mitigations, which is the core process of my work as an officer, RMQA officer, and what are the procedures in place. So first off, the objective. If you happen to know risk management can be defined as the identification or assessment and prioritization of risk. That's it. There's no need to ask further. But based on our risk management policy at IRRI, which they released a memo in 2008, says here that the aim of risk management is to minimize the risk in the conduct of the institute's. This is pressing, sorry. To minimize the risk in the conduct of the institute's activities and to seek the appropriate opportunities in line with the institute's strategy and work plans. So, see the word minimize risk. Actually, we really can't avoid risk. Risk, like I said, it's everywhere. In almost everything we do, there is a risk. It's just a matter of time. It is not meant to scare, but for us to be prepared. Quality assurance. So how can we, what's the relevance between RM and QA? So it also states in our DG memo, the RM policy states that considering its unique features as a research and training institute, we focus on the risks related to research activities. A major response to research-related risk is quality assurance. And QA ensures that IRRI's research outputs are of the highest verifiable quality, thus maintaining its reputation for scientific excellence and integrity. So the word integrity and scientific excellence really mesh together with risk management in terms of quality assurance. And knowing that IRRI is a very reputable institute, I really turned on notification off. I don't know why. In terms of quality, in terms of, you still have to ask yourself the question, do you have a backup plan in everything you do? So this is one of the big questions that always comes up. And of course, some people practice, some people don't. But sometimes you use common sense in order to have a foolproof backup plan. And in terms of what to do if IRRI is inaccessible, for example, this is going to IRRI and there you are, so were you still able to risk yourself going to the flood? So these are the things I'm going to discuss later. So who are responsible and what are their responsibilities? Based on the IT risk management in Wikipedia, it says that because the elimination of all risks is usually impractical or close to impossible, it is the responsibility of senior management and business managers to use the least cost approach and implement the most appropriate controls to decrease mission risk to an acceptable level with minimal adverse impact on organization's resources and vision. I need a Wi-Fi for some of my presentation. Okay, so it says there that minimize the risk as much as possible. And I also asked myself, it's also impractical. Before, when I worked in an ISO organization, I was, oh, it's just too costly. You have to give so much money on that or budgeting. And it states in the Wikipedia, it really is a very impractical thing to do. But later on, I might entice you on practicing risk management as well. So who are the group behind it? As you can see, there are lots of people involved. This is for the whole institute, by the way. For the orange are the oversight committee. And the main person to talk to in terms of RFQ is Menchu Bernardo, which is the senior manager. She handles two guys at the research data management, and the RQA officers are the ones below. There are some five depending on the unit, the population of the unit, and for the social science division, there's two, but there's still more. For the green ones are the research side. At the bottom part are the management and operational services like finance, ITS, CTS, etc. Okay, so who is the RQA officer at first? If you happen to know Lina Diaz, she was the one assigned for RQA officer in 2008. And then she approached me and said, Dehner, can you handle the RQA? Well, since I was new like 1 year and I need to get along with people, I gladly accepted the RQA, never knowing what might I have to go to. Then she came back and then she gave me this style of books about standards, ISO standards. I was really surprised. Oh my God, what am I into? So I had the courage to ask her, why are you transferring me the RFQA responsibility? And then it's not the workload, it's not the people involved in RFQ. She just told me that there's going to be a technical the way of processing the documents online, and she had a hard time. She will be having a hard time doing that, and knowing that I am more technically inclined, then she transferred it to me. So yes, in a few months it happened. We did the shadow planning, and it was more robust way of doing business continuity planning. We did put some of the procedures online, and I think she never made a mistake of giving it to me. Since I also practice ISO back, I'm also an internal auditor to the previous companies I've been to. So there are actually not only me, but these guys are the workforce of RMQA in SSD. So first, the deputy head will definitely be the OU head, Dr. Samarin Monti. And one IRS leader, which is the team leader, is Dr. Telma Paris, who is currently in Africa. Okay, so the role of the OU heads. The OU heads should be responsible in encouraging and implementing the appropriate risk management and quality assurance practice in their units. Of course, they will be accountable to their respective DDGR. In our case, DDGR is King Government is still DDGR, right? Yeah. So, our QA officer would definitely be me. In every unit, there should be one or more risk management quality assurance officer. And then lately I found out that how much percent, they told me it's 20% of the time I should be dedicated to RFQ. And who are the team representatives? I can't do this alone without these guys. From Data Management Group, Tita Pai Moya. And I think she will currently transfer this to Terry Ulat by some time. And then from GIS, Arna Brada. And Donald Villanueva from the research projects. And Orly, who just left, is now working in ADV. So these are the guys who I enjoy working with for the past 5 years. And there's always a huge debate regarding risk registers at SSD. Always a huge debate. The things we do, so we always update the risk registers. We also do business continuity planning and business impact analysis, which is the core process of BCP. And we identify the QA processes and practices. And lately, we also did attend the information security management system. The ISMS is the most tedious part of the process. I think we stopped doing that, but it's also a good practice. So what is your responsibility? Not only us, but you. It says here in the policy also, in 4.1, in general, every staff member of the institute shall be responsible for the effective management of risk, including the identification of potential risks in his or own areas of responsibility. And take note, you can also identify in other areas of the institute, whether it would be like a building infrastructure. We can relate this to PPS or other unit. So every staff, including you. And lately, HR has recently issued a job profiling that all senior levels 6 to 8, who's level 6 to 8? Raise your hands, please. They have included the job profile on the responsibility on risk management. So lately, you'll find out that you will have your job profile, the responsibility on risk management. So, what are the practices at SSD? At first at IRRI as a whole. So they do many training workshops on an annual basis. They like this one. They have proper use of laboratory, chemical waste management, chemical safety, eco seminar, and revisiting the business continuity planning. And this one I attended the year's information assets, are they at risk? And what are the technical requirements for calibration, measurement, etc. And the most thing I like, and we also have other assessment approach at IRRI. For ITS, they have the threats and vulnerabilities, the OHS, hazard identification assessment and control, hazard analysis, critical control points, and the PRINCE through project risk assessment. And what I like most is this one.
The now rare opening of the so-called Doomsday Vault. It sits in a remote part of Norway and serves as a backup against disaster. It's a home for seeds from all around the world. And NBC's Michelle Kosinski is there this morning. Michelle, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, this forbidding place, and it's actually been an unseasonably warm winter, is the perfect place for a global seed vault. Built just 4 years ago, but now thriving. A place to keep humanity's treasure in seeds for crops, just in case who knows what might happen.
Here we are, 2012, and this strange monolith jutting from a frozen mountainside on the rooftop of the world.
Harry,
Hi.
hi. So this is the place,
This is it.
the vault.
Was planted here by American scientist Carrie Fowler, the world's first global seed bank.
This is the big long tunnel that'll lead us back to the coldest place in the mountain.
Drilled 400 feet straight through permafrost and solid rock, past sets of frozen doors.
Brace yourself.
Minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit home to seeds now for more than 700,000 varieties of our planet's food crops. More than 100,000 types of rice. North Korea sit peacefully next to South Korea's. Just this week, through a raging blizzard here, samples managed to come in from violence-ravaged Syria. And from the U.S., hardy wheat, many amber waves were. An enormous plant gene pool, protected from any number of future disasters.
This is what is going to allow agriculture to remain productive, to create food security, to adapt to climate change and water shortages and everything that we might want agriculture to be in the future.
So if I wanted to find the best tasting Italian tomato that I could ever find, it would be in one of these boxes.
Oh, I promise you it's here.
It's here.
Yes, it is.
In this extraordinary environment, a magnificent isolation may be the safest place. So frequently guarded by polar bears, it's illegal to venture outside town without a gun. So peaceful under the glow of northern lights, wow, it can rest unmanned. Both a repository for the advancement of human farming over the last 10,000 years, and a safeguard for the next thousands, one tiny seed at a time.
It's not just catastrophe that worries scientists. They say that commercial farming over time has really reduced our crop diversity on this planet. So if everyone is, say, planting the same kind of wheat, a disease that affects it then is going to do that much more damage. So there could come a time that we come here and say, what's an older kind of wheat that might be more resistant or might grow in a warmer, wetter place? And some of the seeds here are expected to still be viable 20,000 years from now.
20,000 years, imagine that. So I'm glad that we are at IRRI and we are highly involved in the Doomsday Vault, which I think would be one of our global backup plans in case of the biggest catastrophe that happens. So cross your fingers, it will not happen yet. Maybe sometime, if you watch Armageddon, there is. So at SSD, what are the practices that we've done the things that we do are basically this one. Conduct baseline socioeconomic surveys for impact assessment, participatory research, study rice economy policies, rice sector analysis and market outlook, resource management, like water usage, and geographic information. These are the things that we really need to identify. And if you look closely, these are the activities, core activities of SSD. We do data collection, we do data management, and we do data analysis. We have to ask ourselves, what are the two main assets of SSD by looking to the core activities? Can you have a guess for like one asset most valuable at risk? One guess. Two guess. Okay. Data. Correct. Two main assets of SSD. Data. Correct. People. So, by looking at the processes, if we focus on data, yes, we have a good data center for socioeconomic data. We have good collection of farm household survey databases. Yes, it is very, if you look at the work process flow of SSD itself, example, the scientists and RS conceptualize this project. They do pre-tests of the survey questionnaire. Would there be a risk? Would there be a risk? Question, yes or no? Yes, like I said, risk is everywhere. Second process, we do field survey. We do training of enumerators. Is there a risk? Yes, there is. We do coding and quality control. Remember, quality control. We do quality on quality. Yes, there is. We do confirmation. There's a possibility. And definitely data entry and cleaning and analysis would also be involved in so much risk. And sometimes even in publications, presentations, and the way we incorporate the results, we do encounter the risk. So one good example of the practices that RDM was doing, and I noticed that, is that where are these data? Before, whenever there's a project, SSD survey data sets are all over the place. Each researcher can have his own project data set, and it is kept on a format known only to the researcher. So there's no focal person to ask who keeps such and such data set, and there's lack of standard protocol. This was like 2009. Then RDM was formed by Sam, and these guys are the one who will be unifying all this data. And yes, the steps that they did, the RDM team did was they simply developed a standard format that defines how all data sets are and projects must be formatted. They merge and clean all the data sets to adhere to common format. And with further consultation, they agreed on the components of the data sets that will be freely open to the public. So there's a unified database. So if you notice our website, we have the WRS and the FHS. A good tap on RDM regarding the merging of these data sets. And if you still have other data sets, please do contact them in order to have a good practice for data handling and information management. And then came the time of the household survey, digital age, where tablets are becoming more cheaper, more accessible, and yet even at IRRI, they promoted the use of the tablets for data collection. For RQA, they like the use of Android. For SSD alone, we also bought a proprietary software like SurveyD that runs in Windows. And also, we've developed some data collection in Access. And I've also done beta testing on iOS and iPad. So what are the criticalities here? Yes, it's a good practice. We've done that. In 2011, they started in the Bohol project. They did the testing versus the traditional survey questionnaire versus the digital. And what we've seen is a good impact of changing one process, which is the encoding process. So they did, this is a typical paper survey questionnaire where they had to ask the respondents, and the answers would be encoded and do quality checking and then analysis. But if you have a tablet, it's now directly on the numerator where the inputs of the respondent should be cleared, and already quality check, and a minor quality checking does excluding the re-encoding process. And we simply do the analysis. We just export this to an CSV file or an Excel file, then we do quality checking and analysis. And yes, we did cost-benefit analysis and return of investment. If you look closely, uh, we can have savings of 148,000 for 5 tablets versus that 325,000 budget. This is based on a Bohol survey team project with a 35-page questionnaire for 900 respondents. And no more messy tables like this one where you have to keep your questionnaires. And this one, you see, so there's also the elimination of that. Whose office is that? Okay, the risk registers and mitigations. These are the things that that I do and the team reps are doing, and Sam approves this every year on an annual basis. These are the risk sources, some of the problems that we have encountered. So first off, what is a risk register? It's one of the management tools commonly used in project management. Well, it just really includes information such as risk probability, probable impact, countermeasures, and the risk owner, and so on. So we update this from bottom up, top down process. Menchu Bernardo will come here and ensure that we are going to do this on an annual basis. And the good thing about this is the merienda is free. So if you like to be in the group, yeah, we have free meriendas. It can be one day, it can be half day, it can be done here, and it can also be done outside IRRI. So where we can focus clearly on the possible risks that we can encounter. It is also an Australia and New Zealand risk management standard. And like I said, this will be signed off by the head. So what are the risk sources? How can the risk arise? There are so many things. It can be political events, miscommunication or information, equipment, technological failures, lack of information, etc. Other sources. Why are you doing this? Okay. So under that, if there's a specific resource, there's still a risk statement. For example, miscommunication. What are the risk statement there? There are so many lists. For miscommunication, for example, we have problems with the phone. We cannot communicate quite well because of the hardware in place. And like this one, we have from aging workforce to declining funding, to delayed completion, from drowning. So these are very hilarious. Yeah, like I said, it's very hilarious, but it can happen. And I'll show you the facts later. How do we assess? We use the assessment matrix, which is the simplified method. It's mostly a huge debate. I know it's very easy. If the likelihood or the probability of having the risk is high, and the impact or the consequences is high, definitely it's high. If it's low, the probability of happening that risk to happen is low, then the impact is also low, then it's low. So this, remember, is not a mathematical model. It's far from perfect, but a good way to prioritize. And remember, we only have 50% of the time to work here. This can be quantitative. It can be a quantitative matter if we adjust this. We do more analysis on this one. And how do we evaluate? Of course, the low, medium, high. If it's potential damage or a particular aspect of IRRI's function, just a potential. So it's like a drop of water in a glass, a droplet on a glass of water. And if it's medium, it's a potential damage to an important aspect of IRRI's function or future viability. So it's like a blow. And a high failure has the potential to significantly damage or destroy the effective functioning of IRRI. So it can be as catastrophic as this one. So risk mitigation is one of the third process of ISO 27005 of risk management. It involves prioritizing, evaluating, and implementing the appropriate risk-reducing controls recommended from the risk assessment process. The keyword here is risk-reducing. Like I said, we cannot eliminate. I've done that before when I submitted to Menchu that we can eliminate this one. No, there's always a risk in everything we do. We cannot really eliminate, but we can reduce the risk. Of course, there should be an action plan or contingency plan. These are the additional plans to meet the gaps. We do this by using documentation, procedural guidelines, reports, and memos. Okay, for example, we have a risk register table here, a risk register table in table format. Example, the project is a birthday party. What are the risks in a birthday party? The guests might find the party boring. There might be a drunk and brawl. There might be rain. There might be earthquakes or not enough food. Or even the food is spoiled. So how do they rate this? So it depends on the person who was analyzing this. So they find out that the risk score for the guests might find the party boring would be 4, and rain is the most top risk score. So what is the mitigation? You invite crazy friends. You provide sufficient liquor. And the contingency plan is to bring out karaoke or call 911. So these are some of the crazy stuff that I see on the net. But we do apply this seriously on SSD. So who is the person who will take care of this and when? For example, you have like 2 hours. Okay, we can do this on a real scenario right now. Loss of data. I have a tablet here. I always go on field. A frequent traveler, what is the risk assessment? Take a guess. High, medium, low. Of lost research data. Good. So you rate it as high. Probability of happening. So example, you're on a field, and then after the field of data collection, you did try to go to a very nice place, highly secure place, and there you are, ordering. Okay, I like to order some pizza or beer. Just to relax, be with my friends here. And you see, it's very secure. And there's your data. There's your data right there, the tablet. And imagine, this is a very secure place and no one's even noticing. Right? And then there goes your data. Still high? Yes, still high. But no, wait a second. So this guy came in, he got your data. I have a backup. I have my USB with me. So it's still okay. I still have the research data with me. I'm safe. I can pay for that old computer that ITS gave me. That's okay. But what about it's another case? I still have my ATM account there. My passwords are saved there. You can't see it. Or if I'm working in a bank and all of my clients' ATM accounts are there, that can also be as dangerous as that, even if you have a backup plan, because it can be compromised. But then again, unless you have an anti-theft security, that you can remotely access that laptop whenever there's an internet connection, or if it's clearly encrypted, well, the only way to do it is they have to reformat it and they cannot obtain any data. So the most good practice is to have it encrypted, a high encryption. And the probability of that happening, it might come to a medium, and it's still high, but yes, we can eliminate. So these are the things that we have to consider in assessing risk. So what are the risk registers at SSD for the past 5 years? So I have summarized that. Loss of life and accidents was always on a medium, but in 2008 it was high. I'm not sure why it's high, because maybe of the typhoon that's been happening, or we might encounter some staff who had accidents before. And the use of inappropriate quantitative and qualitative research tools. Loss of research is an all-time high since 2010 because of the tablets that we have. And I can show you further the graphical view of this. So yes, the top 4 would be these guys. Loss of research data is still top, delayed completion, and inaccessible research data, loss of life, and accidents. How do we measure and how do we analyze? Of course, the environment, or the facts, or the lessons learned, and even the trending issues. we can determine or measure the possible risk that we might encounter. Like this one. The threats and hazards that we have encountered for the past 5 years, we have earthquakes, typhoons, floods like Ondoy,
Yeah.
Pepeng. And last year was the typhoon that greatly affected us last year, flooding in our area. So the volcanic eruption can also happen, like in Mount Mayon. There's also civil disturbance. Okay, remember what happened in Icarda in Syria. So if you know Icarda is an agriculture research based in Syria. And you see what happened. Icarda's headquarters had been subjected to frequent night raids by armed gangs who had stolen vehicles, computer, and even farm machinery and other equipment. Fortunately, Icarda stated that all email and financial system database and its GMBAT had been safely relocated. So you see, they might have a good risk management in place or a good backup plan, contingency plan. Okay, when there's an uprising, what do we do? The management is already planned for this. And even if the guys already stole the vehicle, the computer, even the ship, they were able to relocate their operation someplace else. And this is the actual table that we are filling up. For trading in 2013, equipment technological failure is one of the reasons. We have old units. I think some people are still using some old units, like the HP one and the Dell ones. They should be replaced immediately. And I think it's an all-time high here because we still have an equipment of that phase since 2005, and it should be replaced immediately. Excuse me. We have physically hazardous environment, inefficient data turnover of departing staff. Like right now, we have two IRS. We just left, K and Floor. The question is, where's the data? Who is managing the data? And uh, to whom did they turn over the data? And, and, and these are the mitigation. For example, for data turnover, we have an ITS clearance sheet that determines the information management asset to whom you will transfer. And we also have an internal clearance sheet that I just established last year, which is on beta tests on how especially for short contractor staff. And right now, I included the theft of laptops and mobile devices. Like I said, these ones are very mobile. It can be there. You see what happened earlier in the secured area. Please do practice. I will also try to put and implement the use of an anti-theft software that I will try to show later. So yes, we did also backup and retrieval operation procedures with the use of Cobia and Beyond Compare. Okay, and the procedures in place are, right now, good thing, RMQA also adapts in one of their file management tools, the Cobia, one that we use for local backups. So if you have an external drive, I also did the recovery training last 2011, which also complies with the loss of research data. And of course, this should be our practice. For sure, if you have an assigned workstation or a laptop, you have an external drive, it should be synchronized there, all your data. And we also have the IRRI-AD, which is the network allocated storage. We should put there, since this is 1 terabyte only for the whole division, we should only include here for data sharing, file folder sharing. But the ITS also back this one out. And some of the data, for example, if RDM is practicing the collection of data, the unifying of data, they have here one of GIS servers where GIS and ITS manage this one. And they have a robust system. They also have an external HDD and a RAID system that whenever whatever happened to this server, we also have a backup plan. And it's also in the cloud, which is freely available. So that is one of the good practices that we are doing. And yes, like I said, we also have to practice the internal clearance for data turnover. And soon, the information security of anti-theft briefing. I already talked with ITS about this. So example, this laptop is stolen. I'll try to show you one example. So I have this software called Prey, and I have two laptops assigned to me. One is the iPad and one is the ASUS. So example, this one is stolen. I try to get the view. Let's see. Okay, so example, this is stolen. I try to put this on a missing bar, and I try to activate some of the stuff here. Geolocation, the network, and the webcam. So once you activate this, if they have internet connection to their neighbor, or if they happen to open that laptop by any chance, there will be an incoming report stating that, hey, Dehner, here's the, they will send by my email, and then they will report, here's the thief. Who's the thief? Let's see who's the culprit. So I know the location, it's in Maas. Oh, it's in IRRI. Oh, it's in IRRI. So I am the theft. So you see the reports here generated every minute, and once you activate it, that's a good way of determining. At least there's a peace of mind. You know who's the person, you know where it is, and there are recovery testimonial that they have recovered even mobile phones. So this is a cross-platform that I try to work out with ITS, and it's also recommended by it's also stated in New York Times and BBC, and I hope ITS would agree because right now they are very skeptic about the use of this software. But for me, it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay. So second would be inaccessible research data. There are issues with the network connectivity and recently the cyber attacks. For example, we also have problems in the internal database, incomplete documentation. I don't know if RBM had a documentation on how they can get data. Maybe I can ask them later. And how access to online database. We have an issue this one time with the DG himself who had access to this, but it's not really a server problem, but it's the link to that because you save the old link, which is already relocated to another link. So that would be another issue. Uh, but yes, we also put the mitigations in place and we can apply the additional gaps. So example, if we have been attacked by, if there are cyber attacks, then we can develop a Google site, which is currently done since last year. And yes, it can happen because it happened last year, like I said. IRRI.org, the main website, was gone. Was not accessible on May. Why? So we have the interim site, which is like a mock site that only works with some of the social media like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and even Ustream. This one is slow, so we'll skip to that. What happened? So Philippine websites had been hacked by China. Why? That was May last year. So some of the oops, I've been hacked. Okay. Okay. So some of the sites in the Philippines had been hacked, even the University of the Philippines website, and now they put some image. The main website says here it's all about the Scarborough Shoal, if you remember. And I think indirectly, it's, when IRRI was attacked, it's not. I think it's not related to the Scarborough Shoal issue. And they really they have a warning here that you see we came from China, and they attacked the PHP, one of the web servers, and that is one of the main reasons why IRRI.org was down. And if you look closely, you see the drop on May. That's the time when we don't have, when IRRI is not accessible. It really affects. It's almost 1 month, if you remember. It's almost 1 month that we were not able to recover easily. And I think now they have a good backup plan and that will never happen again. So yes, there's also like the cybercrime law that being implemented, and there are so many attacks ever since. And we should be prepared by that. So okay, good thing we have the Google site that I just created, and whenever that is down, this is still up. Why? Because this is managed by Google, and Google is very good. I entrust all of my stuff to Google. But the question is, how do they handle our data? That is still the big question. But it can be redirected if you can't find the FHS or the databases. it's here. The household sort database, WRS, is still active. Okay, and recently, we also have loss of life, no, a possible loss accidents and workplace safety. We've been pushing this since last year. I was even laughing when one of my colleagues, I think Orly, suggested this one that there are some physically hazardous environment that we are working in remotely in the field. So what are these? He's told me that it can be rebel infested. So these are very scary areas that we should have. So okay, the thing to do for that is we just avoid the risky area. I mean, we should coordinate with local government units. So I was laughing at that one. But yes, recently I found a website, the news about the UP botanists being killed with these two researchers in Leyte. So it said there is caught in a crossfire between rebels and the army. But just last year, I found out that the criminal charges were filed against the army because of mistaken identity. The guys look like NPAs because they have like big poles. They are botanists, so they use that cutters. So they are clearly being mistaken as rebel. So if you notice that your area is very dangerous, please contact your local government to avoid such. Oops. Okay, where am I? I'm lost. Okay, so lately we also have what is our mitigation on that, and apparently we also discussed with Sam the okay, like this one, the installation of the emergency lights, and they do comply. They have to install the emergency lights, and this one, the frosting. You see, lately even I myself had accidents bumping to the clear glass, and lately we have just February 14th, we had this very incident where you see this one is very dangerous. So workplace safety is now a big concern starting this year, trending. And why? You can see there is a warning sign by PPS. There they are, the markers. But if you look closely, if it's a white background in the facade and it horizontally aligns with the bar inside, you just really can't see it. Of course, there are many debates on whose fault is this, but yes, for me, we already did what we did. We already asked if it can be possible to put some tints or blinds or frosting. Maybe it can eliminate or alleviate, not eliminate, alleviate the, the incident. And that was very dangerous. You see the broken glass here. And recently, I also added the electrostatic. Everybody been experiencing the electric static charges. Okay, I think most people. So we had to raise this issue on grounding of the building, and there are some people who also say there's not adequate ventilation for if you go like from a cool place then outside to a hot place, and they need this area to be clean as well, to be air conditioned as well. So there are things like that we still consider and we still have to push through if it's approved. So yes, the placement of early warning stickers is also there. So, and one of the big issues now would be this one. We are now beside Mount Makiling, one of the business continuity planning that they've initiated was to where should we relocate? What is our contingency plan if something happens in this place and Mount Makiling suddenly erupted and this place is inaccessible? What are the things that we're going to do? Well, my suggestion is to relocate. No, for us we can just work at home. I think Sam designed this, or we can work at your nearest internet shops, unless. But I'm also planning to put this. We're also looking for a contingency plan on a different location. We also have an office in Makati where you can work in case something is inaccessible. Some guys like finance are going to Makati. Some are even in Singapore. I don't know. But for really to work again, we should have this contingency plan. And I'm also scouting for nearby areas that can be possible for a small group to work with to have our operation up and running in no time. Okay, so that's about it. And the only thing I like to request is for who will be the next person. Like we have new groups like marketing research. I believe we need guys from Val as well to come and join us and evaluate some risks that can be possible in your area or in your process. And and I like to thank the people behind this uh, who are always with me through thick and thin. Uh, there's always a huge debate. It's very enjoyable. There's always a huge debate in creating risk, in assessing risk, and alleviating the risk. So I thank you everyone and hope you have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Dehner, for that very informative and interesting presentation. We now open the floor for questions and clarifications. Questions? No questions?
Let's go.
Oh, no.
Hi, ma'am.
One of the frequent risks that that is encountered in social science research, I suppose also in biological sciences, the staff member leaves
Ah.
and the research project is not completed. In the past, you will have a tough time
Resign.
getting the data
Okay.
because the staff member who leaves carries everything with him or with her. I suppose that is not possible now. But the fact that you did not complete
So,
the task is a very, very big risk. What are we doing with respect to this?
yes, those are really one of the big issues actually right now. But like I said, as much as possible, we like to have it documented. And if they are going to leave like this one, I have with me the internal clearance staff. Yes, if there's data here, if necessary, attach metadata information and documentation to see where is the file, to whom you will transfer this, and as much as possible. I think when Taku was leaving, you are talking. I believe you're talking with Esther regarding the data turnover. So yes, there is a good. It's been implemented, but I'm not sure if it's 100% implemented because I also asked when Flor Palis left, where is her data? Leads? Where's Leads? I think I asked her where did she turn over? Lina, yes, I confirmed that, right? So it's with Lina's data. If you need the data of Flor, but in case, I think I have it with me, or I have to check. I have to double check. So yeah, there are cases that we do ask the turnover, but it's also painstaking to really dig deeper on, yes, I can just give you the data, but not really the raw data itself or even.
Yeah, how do you check? Because we have the staff members who are leaving.
I think we need.
We must make sure we get everything. Because there is also an issue of ownership
Yes,
of the data. If I am the one who gathered the
I can
data,
take
the data are mine.
it. Yes, but I know it's also a rule that if you do this in an instant like in IRRI and the assets you use are like in IRRI and everything, I think IRRI has the right to have that as their part of their property as well. That's what I first.
Let me just clarify some of Helia's concern. I think they're very important. It was used to be the case where IRS used to hold on to the data. This is their data. But it has been very clear to IRS that they have to hand over the data. Even if the project is not over, they have to hand over the raw data and after the clean data is done. So we have a database management team led by Pai, Esther. And if we are not doing it, that means the group is not doing their job. So I'm assuming that we have been collecting all the data from everybody and IRS, the senior scientists or senior staff. It has been made them very clear that the data belongs to institute, not to the scientist. Okay, you collect the data, you have the right to analyze and publish it, but still the data belongs to the institute. That's been very clear to everybody. I think we have been successful in getting data. Now also we have made sure that even before you collect the data, they have to get my approval. Okay, so we know that who is collecting what. So there is no overlapping duplication there. So it's time consuming, also kind of intruding their independence, but it's actually kind of necessary to have the data. As you said, the data is the most important asset we have in the division, and we have to make sure that it's protected. So.
As of now, the clearance of the departing staff will pass to our team. Unless as there's the clearance that the data is turned over to her,
Yes.
so the clearance will happen.
And it's,
This wasn't true before.
no, we didn't have the team there.
Yeah.
We have actually, we have these people are 100% for this purpose. Esther, that's a job. It's not a part-time job, that's a full-time job.
So I
To make
think
sure.
this is a good development. Because I remember in the past, years before. So when did this start?
We are also trying
It
to
started in
raise
2009.
even the old innocent. In some cases, we are successful to get it back, but in some, and we cannot do anything anymore, that was fast.
Yeah, those are old data, we cannot do
But we are still trying to get.
But as far as I know, last 3-4 years, who have left, we have got all the data, including documentations. We have got everything.
I understand that you have identified the different risks at SSD.
Yes.
I just want to know, how do you monitor this? Is it on a monthly or is it by team? And if there's like a new group like the market research, the value chain group, is it automatic that you have to talk to them and identify the risk involved in their projects, things like that?
For the first two questions, yes, we do this periodic on an annual basis. Annual, yes. Like I said, 20% of the time. But we do this on a whole day basis of really interacting with the respective research groups, and they actually have good inputs on giving the risk. Risk, yeah. Like I said, it can be funny sometimes, but if you really look into the facts, dig deeper, it can really happen. And for example, I really did include market research group here because I believe you are a newborn team, and Val's team, I believe, also doesn't have any representative as well. So guys, you are very welcome to join us. And when Orly left, I think that's really a good time that we should include another person to represent another research project that can give good inputs on this related.
Yeah, okay, I just follow up on the work of the data management team. We're happy because in the last one IRS and 2 NRS, they have I had signed and Terry as well in their clearance. Even if the division had already signed, we have not written, not unless they have endorsed to us the data set. However, I think my fear here is that in the past, even I think Dr. Sam already mentioned through an email that when the RDM, SSD RDM team has been born or conceptualized, it is obliged, but when everybody is obliged to really pass on to us what they have data on hand. The current, the ongoing, and the past, everything. But then what we had noticed is that, well, I think the only time that they will have endorsed to us, not for everybody, of course, is that when they resign. We really will not really sign the clearance. But what happened here is that I have an experience that I have been trying to to check the data set, and not everybody will be giving to us. But then, say for example, in the case of Flor, I asked her data set. She endorsed to me one very, very old data set. And the recent one, I think the one of the valuable project in Institute now is the Philippine rice self-sufficiency. And she said that the data set is with Lina. So I am very confident that Lina will never leave without endorsing to us the data set. And just recently, in the same manner, Orly has kindly enough endorsed to me the data set, the international data set of GSR. And then similarly, she said that the Philippine data set for GSR is with Dorians. And then just yesterday, Dr. Taco endorsed to me the data set of the Bohol project, the social networking survey. And then already have signed that.
What about short-term visitors who come and gather data?
Take our data or collect data.
Collect data.
Yeah. But the short-term visit
Who
always
owns the data?
still we own the data.
Really?
Yeah.
Even if they come just for 3 months?
Yes. If we paid for the data, if they're if the data is being collected by some other funding, is different. But if we paid for the data, then we own the data.
Or at least we get copy.
Yes. Even if we are collecting jointly, suppose 2006-7, the Bangladesh data that was collected jointly by IRRI and DRAC. So they both have the right to use the data. We have the data, they have the data. And Dr. Hussain has given us the last term of data.
Our understanding, ma'am, if I can also work on this, our understanding, as long as the IRRI personnel has hands-on the data collection or whatever collaborators, we really have to get the data by all means. By all means. Yes, one good example is that mentioned by Dr. Muhanti is that the 2008 data set of Bangladesh, we do not have any collaboration whatsoever. But when Pai and Dr. Muhanti visited BRAC, and they asked for the recent data set, Dr. Hussain gave us the data set. So
they collected the data.
Yes. So we have a very rich data set for Bangladesh. We have 4 data sets for Bangladesh that we call that historical data.
What about, let's say you have IRRC, you have Q, and all these other collaborative programs. They gather data in their countries with the help of IRRI staff. Or you train them. Okay, then data were gathered by the country. Do we have any access to that data?
If we just give technical contribution, no financial, I'm not sure. We have been involved. We have not been involved like that. Not a lot of activities where we just provide technical assistance. I think we have been involved where we have also financial contribution there. Then we want
I think there must be something financial, because they distribute funds.
Yeah, then that data is owned by us.
We have a right to,
No, most of our data collected by the national cartoons.
yeah.
We give the money. Okay? So, but we own the data, not them. We get the data from them.
Is that understood?
Yes.
The, we,
Yeah, normally it's in the agreement. They're collecting on our behalf.
please. It's just that right now the research data management policy is being revised. In that policy, each OU will have to develop implementation guidelines. So I guess that could be included if every SSD would be developing your own implementation guideline. So that could be addressed in that document.
Because there are issues that will arise. Data have been gathered and some money had been used, but somehow the report from that side is not coming home. Is there a possibility that we can say, can we have copy the data and we can do the analysis?
Right now there is a CG initiative, all centers, also an open access policy by the CG consortium is in the process. And so I think our IRRI research data management policy will be in line with that CG open access policy. So I think that would be addressed. All inputs or outputs of all CG centers should be openly available as international
Because if
public
I were a researcher in the country, why will I give you the data?
We gave you money, you did it for us. we gave you the input, we gave you the money. You are just a hired but collaborator, you know.
Yeah, because this has happened in the past. They give you money, they collect the data, and then they take the data with them.
Well, they also keep the data, but they also give us the data.
That is what I'm not sure.
I don't think we had any case where we didn't get the data. I don't think so.
I hope we don't have any problem with this. Because we need the data from these countries.
I don't think that's the issue. Issue is the quality. Sometimes the quality is bad. They'll cut down on the tree and pick up the fall. That is something is more original than handing over the data.
I have a question for Dr. Mohanty and Pai. Right now, I think the household database only cover those data sets collected in SSD or by SSD or through SSD. How about those data sets collected by IRC Cure? I think IRC has a rich database on many countries. So I wonder if you have any plan at all of extending, the repository to include those data sets.
Really, I don't have any control on IRRC and QO data, frankly speaking. We can definitely approach them that as a depository, then we can keep the data just because we have all kind of data there. That can be implemented very easily through the data there. But I haven't got any request for anybody that they need access IRRC and QO data. If I get a request, I'll definitely get the data from them. But you're right, we should be. But we should have a lot of data flow collected to IRC. When she was there, then as a postdoc, then probably we don't have those data sets. But I think after she joined the division,